All right. Welcome in. This is the Champagne Room live. I'm here with Robby Nardini, who does many, many things, but today he's helping out with the Champagne Room live. We're going to do another draft. It's going to be Illinois basketball worst, most painful recruiting misses. And thankfully, I feel like this happens less and less now, but there's still some good ones, and definitely some good ones from back in the day. So Robby, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Isaac. I know I told you off air I'm headed to Italy on Friday, so I'm not going to be around the next 2 weeks. So maybe you'll get a better guest than me, but I'll be back at it after the 2 weeks I'm overseas.
Hey, no, it'll be hard to replace you. I think hopefully it's a slow couple of weeks, then we'll have a ton to talk about when you get back. But first, we were just talking about off air. There's been surprisingly like a lot of news for May, I feel like. And the transfer portal and stuff obviously helps. And then the Timberwolves being good has helped. But I'm just going to kind of run through the list from the past week. First off, Ty Rodgers heads to Boise State. That was the first news of any of the departures. So, what's your thoughts there? I don't know if you know much about the Mountain West program out there, but what are your thoughts on Ty staying in the orange and blue?
Yeah, no, Boise State's a good Mountain West program. I'm a little bit surprised he's going that far west. I figured he might stay, within the Midwest, just being from Illinois, Michigan area, as well. And just playing in Illinois for 2 years and being in Illinois for 4 years, I figured he'd maybe, stay around in the Midwest. I knew he'd go down a level. Boise State is a good program, good in the Mountain West, and has a really good coach. So they're always a threat in that conference, which is good for Ty. Can play for a winning program. I think he needed to go down a level to kind of get the playing time that he wanted, and hopefully he's got 2 more years of eligibility. Hopefully, so you never know. Similar to DGL, if he goes to the Mountain West and plays well, he may be able to get back to the high major level. But a little bit surprising. We'll see how it goes. But I wish nothing but the best for Ty. Hopefully, he stays healthy and can have a good career with Boise State. And similarly, I'm sure you were about to mention this too, but Brandon Lee going to James Madison was another one. Wasn't like huge news for these two just because they're going to lower major teams, but James Madison obviously is a lower level than Illinois, but he didn't have much playing time at Illinois. He is a former four-star recruit, so hopefully he can get things going there, get a lot of playing time, get a lot of shots, and kind of make his way back up to high major, maybe for his junior or senior year. But definitely some good news there. Hopefully Brandon does well, and we're still waiting on Petrovic and Tony Bilic's decision if they're gonna go down a level or go over to Europe. We'll see. But yeah, like you said, the transfer portal is supplying us some really good content.
Yeah, it's unfortunate right after the season. It's one of the most bittersweet things because it definitely makes the off season more interesting, and bad programs I think can have hope instantly because of getting guys in the portal, but there's a lot of negativity to it too. But for clicks and if you're somebody that just cares about ratings and some of these websites that just feed off of these recruiting websites that feed off of rumors are definitely thriving. So, but yeah, it's good to see guys like this. You're happy to see them go. Hopefully, get some playing time elsewhere. And guys like DGL, a little bit different, but went down a level, dominated. Now we're going to see him again this fall when he's at Texas Tech. So. Some more Illinois news. Quentin Kitt is leaving the state. He's currently committed to Illinois, but is going to prep school elsewhere. I forget where. So fill us in on that.
Yeah, he is another Illinois in-state recruit going to just going to prep school. I think that's becoming more and more popular with recruits nowadays. You don't see a lot of high-level recruits coming from just public schools anymore. Jackson Davis, I think, is the only one from Illinois now that's kind of still in a public school. Going to Warren Township up where I'm from, but a lot of the players nowadays, there's a lot of Illinois players that were good that went over to prep schools, and kids kind of following in their footsteps. It sucks as a, Illinois native. I wanted to kind of go see some of these guys play. Maybe go see Kid. I know he's a little bit farther in Peoria for me in Chicago, but yeah, it's unfortunate other talent is leaving the state. I think I get it. It makes sense. You want to go to a prep school, play with other D1 guys, get better every single day instead of kind of being a dominant player in your high school. You hear about people always say if you're the best player in the gym, then you're in the wrong gym. And maybe Quentin felt that way in Peoria, kind of just being the best player. And he plays for Mean Streets, who has a lot of talent. So it's kind of just surrounding yourself with the best talent possible. I totally get it. It just kind of sucks to have another Illinois guy leave to go to a prep school.
Yeah, and I think Joe Hendrickson was the first person to report this. So I wanted to give him some credit, but it is unfortunate. It's definitely not like it used to be when everybody just played for their high school. I totally see it both ways. So best of luck for him. Hopefully he stays committed to Illinois and sticks around, and then we get to enjoy him here in a couple years. So the NBA draft, we're kind of bouncing around here, but we know the lottery now. The Bulls have the 4th pick. Wizards got the 1st pick, and all the other rough teams besides the Thunder, basically, who I think are picking 12th, even though they're probably going to win the finals. They know where they're picking now. So there's been a handful of different places Keaton's been mocked to. Tell me a little bit about where you think Keaton would be the best fit, in what range you really see him going to.
Yeah, I think he moved up to the 5 once the Clippers got it. I think a lot of people see that as a good fit for him. And I think the Nets are picking 6th. I honestly would want to see him go to the Nets. I know going to the Clippers, he would be on a contender and play with a lot of good players. But I think in the Nets, he would just play a lot more, get more opportunities. I think he'll go in the 5 to 7 range. I think there's a decent amount of guards in that range, where it's Wagler, Acuff, Kingston Flemings, who we saw in the Sweet 16. Michael Brown Jr. and Braden Burries are in that range too, but maybe a little bit lower. So, Keaton can go anywhere but between those 5 to 8, maybe 9 range, probably on that closer end of the 5, though, I would say. And Clippers would be a good fit just to be in a contender, get better. But I would want to see him on the Nets just to kind of get more opportunity. If he did fall, I think going to the Mavs would be awesome, playing with Cooper Flagg. I can just see Wagler and Flagg just dominating with each other, playing off each other in those pick and rolls. But the Bulls got the number 4 pick. I don't think they're going to pick Keaton with that one. You kind of have a top 3, but I think Wilson is kind of in that 3 range as well. I'll probably rank him as number 4 in my big board if I was doing one. So I'm hoping the Bulls take him. I got my Bulls sweatshirt on for you just for the occasion. Since you told me we were talking a little NBA draft and the Bulls got lucky with the top 4 pick. But yeah, there's some different options for Keaton, and he's impressed in the NBA combine here in Chicago, shooting the ball really, really well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went 5 overall.
Yeah. The Bulls obviously caught some luck for once. It felt like getting into that 4th pick. And as much as I love Keaton, and he's going to be one of my all-time favorite Illinois players, I don't think the Bulls would be the right fit right now. I feel like the Bulls need more of like a, just player that can dominate. And not that Keaton can't do that, but I think Keaton at the next level isn't going to be the same as what he was at Illinois, right? I imagine Keaton's probably not going to have many complete takeover 25-10 games like he did at Illinois. He's going to be more of just that super reliable guy that makes every right play. That's going to probably have a long NBA career. And I think the Bulls need more of, that game, that all-star year 1 type crazy player, but still a lot of great places. I think I would personally hope he doesn't go to the Nets, because they seem to be kind of like a doomed franchise. Yeah.
Well, you could say the same about the Bulls. And I hear a lot of people say, I would love Keaton to go to the Bulls. I'm like, I don't want him on the Bulls. They're a franchise. I was happy when Ayo got traded despite being a Bulls fan. I was like, he gets to go to a good team, good organization right now. I don't think we need Keaton on the Bulls. Like, it was cool for Ayo, went to a couple games. which is cool. But at the end of the day, you want them to go to a good team. And the issue is a lot of these teams are bad. Like the Kings are at 7, like they're a horrendous franchise. So Clippers, Nets, Kings, like not many good options here for them in terms of franchises. Of course, the Clippers have been a little bit better with Kawhi and recently, but yeah, he might want to fall a little bit to go to a better franchise like the Mavs. Like I said before, playing with Flag, but I don't think he's going to fall that far.
That's what's so unique about the draft, and it seems like it happens more in the NBA draft, where like even like a team like the Pacers, they were bad this year, but like they've got Halliburton and other guys coming back. Like you could, go to, I don't think he's going to go there, but you could end up with the Pacers and be on a great team, or like, same thing with the Mavericks. And I mean, geez, if somebody falls to the Thunder, like that'd be great. But yeah, Clippers would be cool, like getting to play with Kawhi and stuff. And then side note, we would have to do on a different podcast, and I'm sure no Illinois fans care, but the Washington Wizards are like sneaky the worst franchise in all of pro sports. Like they are just never good. I heard the other day they haven't made it to the conference finals since like the 70s or something.
Yeah, they're really bad. Kings are up there too. Didn't the Kings win their first like playoff game like last year, 2 years ago? Like both those franchises are really bad.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Cool. So we're hoping Andre comes back. And there's been a lot of chatter on social media about this. A lot of people feel pretty confident either way. What do you take from Andre? He had a great vertical jump, I'm sure people saw, and I don't know if that means either way he's going to the draft or coming back, but he didn't do the 5-on-5, and I feel like he's popped up in a couple mock drafts late. Like I think it was Yahoo or something had him in the second round of the Kings, just so it'd be a good story because of his dad playing there. But what are your updated thoughts on Andre? And then tell me, if he stays, what would be a good team for him to land with?
Yeah, the Kings would be an interesting story just with his dad, playing there a while. But my views haven't changed since the beginning. He'd be silly to stay in the draft. It just doesn't make sense with NIL. The second round is so bad, and nothing against Andre. I love him. He's a great player. But the draft is so bad in the second round now due to NIL. Like him and Boswell could both get drafted in the second round when maybe they probably shouldn't. Get drafted in the second round in most years. We talked about it before. There's only 70-something people entering the draft. So it's pretty much like if you're in the draft, like you probably are going to get drafted if you keep your name in there. Because you think about it, 73, 10 of them, 15 of them, whatever it is, are going to withdraw their name after the combine or on May 27th. So if you're in the draft, you're probably going to get drafted. The issue is in these second round picks, you're going to play in the G League. So, you're talking about teams that Andre could fit in the NBA, but reality is he's probably going to be in the G League. And I'd much rather play at University of Illinois than playing in the G League because you're making more money at Illinois, first of all. Second of all, you're in college. Of course, you got to do some schoolwork if they're even doing any school anymore as collegiate athletes. But, I mean, he's the most popular guy on the entire campus, making a lot of money. He'll be a star for Illinois. So it just doesn't make sense for him. And I know he had a good vertical jump. His shooting ability was not very good from three in the combine, though. Unlike Keaton, who was absolute on fire in the shooting as expected. Andre, I forget what the number was, but he was terrible from three, which doesn't come to a huge surprise, but he's still got to work on that. Everyone knows that. I think that's what the GMs are going to tell him. And at the end of the day, I still think he's going to come back, and he should come back for his development and money-wise to cash in his last year in college.
Yeah, again, be a great story, but wouldn't really make sense. And I think if he just slightly increases that three-point shot, maybe develops a little bit more of a jumper, then he could be a late first-round pick next year, and that would be beneficial for both sides, both Illinois and Andre. And, yeah, it is crazy seeing some of the guys mocked in the second round, and you just, in most years, would not see those guys getting drafted. Like, I remember years where, there's been tons of guys that go, like, in the second round that would easily be first rounders this year. I'm struggling to think of an example, but okay. So Kylan is not coming back for sure. He's going to stay in the NBA draft.
Not the Bulls.
Hopefully not the Bulls for his sake, but he's definitely popped up in more NBA drafts than Andre mock drafts.
Yeah.
So Kylan's for sure leaving. Where would you like to see him? And maybe just like what would be a textbook perfect situation for him?
Yeah, that's hard to say. Like I said, he'll be in the G League, of course, but I feel like they kind of modeled his game after like Drew Holiday on the Celtics when they were really good. I know Underwood has talked about how they watched the Celtics a lot when they were, going to they won the NBA championship, and I'm sure they watch other teams too. But they kind of put Drew Holiday in the dunker spot a lot, and he was like a small guard, but didn't necessarily play point guard on that team. So Celtics rotation would be impossible to break for Kylan, and if he got drafted there, I'm sure he wouldn't play for the Celtics. But just that story and kind of their fit with Drew Holiday that they had when they were really successful, I feel like he would be a good fit for him. Or another one comes to mind, like the Pacers, like when TJ McConnell was like absolutely balling in the NBA Finals or on that playoff run when he was just pressing guys and getting steals and just winning games defensively. I feel like that's a value Kylan has in the league. Just like a really good pesky defender, similar to TJ there. So I guess like if the Pacers were able to use him in sort of that way, I think that would be cool. But that, it's hard to say with second round picks. First round picks a little bit easier to say because where they're going to go roughly and kind of their fit going into the starting five or off the bench. The second round picks, it's hard to say because Kylan is 21 or whatever. He probably wouldn't break the rotation for a few years, and all the NBA teams' rotations are going to be a little bit different. But I guess those are kind of two that randomly come to mind for me.
Yeah, that TJ McConnell playoffs was definitely memorable because it felt like a guy that shouldn't be impacting the game like that, but he just played so hard and played so tough that it panned out. And I think Kylan definitely has that ability. Some more news. It's crazy, but we got the Illinois basketball opponents for 2026-2027. We got a ways. We're still months away, but we know who we're playing home, who we're playing away, and who we're playing home and away. So we don't have the dates and stuff yet, but Robby, what stands out to you first about this schedule?
Yeah, we won't have the dates until September, unfortunately. College football, they have their opponents like 5 years in advance, and non-conference, I think Illinois football is like a 2031. I guess they play Mizzou in like 2032, and they play Delaware or something. Like for some reason, basketball just like can't have their opponents until really close to the deadline, which is kind of annoying. But I love the scheduling. I always look forward to the scheduling news and prematurely planning trips to go see the team play for both football and basketball. So this was a nice surprise today to see the home and aways and the Big Ten schedule. I think I'm most excited for Assembly Hall. That's one of the venues I haven't been to in the Big Ten. I've been to most of them, but I really want to get there. I have been inside, but I haven't been to a game. So I'm hoping I can make it to a weekend there. And it looks like we're going out west again to Washington and Oregon. With that West Coast trip, that was nice for us a couple of years ago, beating Oregon by a lot when they were top 10 and squeaking by Washington. But yeah, it's nice to have those two play opponents being Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin. Obviously, we'll have Northwestern every year, and we play Purdue every year in football too as like a protected rivalry. It's just nice to have those teams the two play. It's kind of weird when you have Maryland as a two play. It's like they're not really a Big Ten school. Similarly to like USC, Washington, all those West Coast schools, they play each other twice for a reason. I guess multiple reasons, once being location, but two, they were in the same conference before. So keeping those rivalries is nice. It just feels weird not to play Wisconsin or Purdue multiple times in a year. It's weird in football when you don't play Wisconsin. So I'm happy they were keeping it, within the Midwest or close by Champaign. So I'm happy about that. And I think having Michigan State at home only will be nice. Of course, you got to go at Michigan, Ann Arbor, which will be a tough one. But I like the schedule overall. Michigan State wants at home. Michigan wants some pretty favorable matchups. I think Wisconsin and Purdue will both have a kind of, I guess, rebuilding. Maybe might not be the right word, but a step back from last year. So you're looking at a pretty good schedule overall for this Illinois team.
Yeah, I think from an objective and outside perspective, if I'm a fan, I'm like, oh, that stinks. One of the top teams in the conference is wasting. I say wasting. Who knows how these teams are going to pan out? But like, if I'm an outsider fan, I'm wanting Illinois to play Michigan, Michigan State twice, maybe UCLA with all they're bringing in, maybe Indiana. Like, kind of stinks. Illinois is playing Northwestern, Wisconsin, Purdue twice, which again, who knows how those teams could pan out. But as an Illinois fan and thinking about Big Ten standings and stuff like that, it could potentially be favorable to have those three teams as your two crossovers. And selfishly, being from Michigan, I kind of like they're playing at Chrysler. Yeah, it's so hard to say, but
yeah,
going out west and going out east, you're going to be on both sides of the country, and that's just the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, it's nice they kind of rotate these things. It's not the perfect setup with all these teams. I'd obviously much rather have everyone play each other twice. Underwood is kind of teased like we should just play a 30-game Big Ten schedule, which definitely don't do that. But it does kind of suck that you don't play every team twice. It's tough with Michigan too. It's like I saw Werder tweet today, like, why can't they do Michigan twice? But these are like protected type rivalries. So Illinois has to play Northwestern twice. It saves the Big Ten money to have them take a bus up to the stadium instead of a PJ. Just walk on the plane. Plus, it's a rivalry within Illinois. So similarly with Michigan, they have to play Michigan State twice. They have to play Ohio State twice every year just for the rivalry. And similarly to football, probably, I don't know for sure, but I assume they play Michigan State and they play Ohio State every year in football. So that only gives you one team that Michigan will play twice. So maybe they rotate every year. Because I think they play Minnesota twice this year, which is kind of weird. But maybe once in a while we'll get them twice. But moving forward, we're probably not going to play them twice very often.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about. It's hard to believe. It feels like season just ended. Now we're talking about next season and the schedule and everything. But all right, sorry to push it off so long. Yes, Jason, we are doing that right now. We're going to do a draft just like we did last week, and Robby and I have compiled a list of the top Illinois recruiting basketball misses. Now, Robby and I are both – I'm 1998. When were you born, Robby?
96.
Okay, so we are both past a lot of Illinois basketball history, so we might miss a few, but we've kind of done some digging and found some things out. But we're going to go back and forth and draft 5 players, and then let us know who has the most painful team. So, Robby, go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so question for you, Isaac, just to clarify. So, biggest miss, is it like the most painful, like in the moment? Or is it like this person panned out to be amazing, so like this one hurts the most? Or is it just kind of a mix of both? You can kind of consider everything.
I think it's a mix of both, but that is a really good point. That is a good point. I was envisioning more like a guy you should have had or could have had that ended up being like an NBA All-Star or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's some that will be pain, like the Cliff Alexander one, for instance. I don't know if we're going to take that. Like in the moment, that was like, the world's ending. Screw this guy. But obviously that kind of worked out. So unless you're dead set on the other way, I'm thinking more like guy you should have had or could have had and ended up panning out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that works. That works. Yeah. Well, this is tough. Kind of just considering everything. Like, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is just John Shire for me. I'll take him number one, just because he's so like prominent in college basketball right now. He's such a good player in high school. And you think about it now for Illinois, like he just fits the mold so well. Like big guard, can shoot the rock, can pass, can play multiple positions. Grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, so in your backyard, you should be able to get those type of guys. And now, he played at Duke, and now he's one of the best coaches in the entire country. Like, just think about if Illinois had him, how much better they would be just as a team when he was playing. I think he won a national championship. He was on Duke for 4 years, and I'm sure they went to multiple Final Fours. But I heard that, I've watched his tape, of course, but I heard he was the best player. People would come up from the city just to go see him play. He was an absolute dog in high school. It's like, should have got that type of guy. Fits the Illinois mold so perfectly right now. And just think if he went to Illinois, like, would he be the coach at Illinois or an assistant coach? Or, those are all things you got to consider at this point. He's just such a big Duke figure from the suburbs of Chicago. That one's a tough one.
Yeah, it's so tough with Chicago even still because it's such a big city, right? There's so much going on. You're going to lose guys. But I think especially back in the day, guys like that, you definitely wanted to keep in state. And yeah, that would be a good what if scenario. John Shire goes to Illinois. Who knows what happens? Make a Final Four or something. And then he's actually ended up coming and taking over for John Gross or something like that. So John Shire, that's a good pick. I am going to pander a little bit. And this is just selfish. Who, like, I wish they would have gotten in all the what ifs of would have been such an amazing story. Like, it would have made the IO Chicago relationship not even seem that great. And I'm going to go Derrick Rose just because of, again, what could have been seeing him in the orange and blue, took John Calipari to the national championship. And that Memphis team was just super fun. His first few years, before he started getting hurt and everything. Rose was my favorite player for a long time. I'm sure you and a lot of other Bulls fans he was, but just he had that D Brown type of, I think he could have had that D Brown type of impact. Now, D Brown obviously stayed longer at Illinois, but just the athleticism of Rose and just the style he played the game. Just a Rose jersey hanging up in State Farm Center, a one Rose, like orange and blue, just would look so sweet. So, and just the connection to Illinois, I think there would have been, United Center would have been sold out like every night times 1,000 just because of orange and blue on top of Chicago fans. So I am going to take Derrick Rose.
Good pick. Yep. Absolute legend, of course. For the Bulls and for Memphis too. They should have won the national championship. Mario Chalmers three ball at the end of the game. And I always tell the story. It was 2008. So what was I, 12 years old probably? I remember falling asleep before the national championship game was over. So I missed the Mario Chalmers three ball. And I told myself I'm never doing that again. I've watched every national championship game since. But I was absolutely devastated as a kid. Of course, I watched it over, but that was a great game. Memphis should have won that. Natty. So I guess I'm up again, right?
Hit it. Go with your second pick. And again, this is not like a roster. We're not building a roster. It's like top 5 misses.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, should have said this one first, I think. But Eric Gordon, maybe a little bit before our time. I think he decommitted in 2006. So he committed to Illinois, decommitted, which is just awful in itself. But then he went to Indiana, which, right now I wouldn't say Illinois and Indiana are, top rivals. I think old heads say that Illinois and Indiana are like really big rivals. I think people our age don't really see Indiana as much as our biggest rival, but this probably fueled the rivalry like crazy back then too. Illinois was really good. Indiana's a historic program. And I know there's the video of Chester Fraser chest bumping Eric Gordon during those starting lineups. So there's definitely bad blood between Eric Gordon and Illinois. And obviously he was an NBA player for years and had an amazing NBA career. He probably played a ton of years, over 15 years in the league. So what could have been Eric Gordon on Illinois, especially in those days when Self was gone and Weber was trying to get, things continued at Illinois. I think things would have been a lot different if Eric Gordon was on Illinois.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we both forgot that one. Even I should remember that one. I think that was my first example that I even thought of when we started talking about this. So
yeah.
And just the fact it was Indiana, and obviously he was one of those dudes too in the NBA that would just bounce around to teams, like not in a bad way. You're like, oh my gosh, that guy's still in the league. He's still getting minutes. And I know he was on that Rockets team that should have beat Golden State a handful of years ago. Anyways, good pick. I am going to go again, this might pander, might make me a little bit young, but I'm going to go with another Illinois guy. There's rumors like we should have got him or we could have got him. And this was before legal NIL, legal money. So I think we would have had a better chance maybe now. But Jalen Brunson, I'm going to take Jalen Brunson, just lighting it up for the Knicks right now. One of the best players in the NBA, won the national title with Villanova, was one of the best players in college basketball multiple years. I mean, how much better could John Gross's career have been if he would have got a point guard, right? Like got a guy like Jalen Brunson, and again, would have had just that great Illinois story. Has obviously panned out and just been so huge for the game of basketball. Again, it's Derrick Rose, Jalen Brunson, two guys that you let slip through your fingers, whether that was totally in your control or not, and have now gone on to take over the NBA in different capacities. So a Rose and a Brunson jersey in the rafters would both be great. He's now representing a different orange and blue and they're probably going to get to the finals, but yeah, he's been an awesome player and would have been great to see him come to Illinois and save John Gross's career maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to take Jalen next just because I know Jalen. He's from the high school next to me. I played against Jalen my whole life, and I remember he moved from Philly to Illinois, and we were like, who's the guy in the NBA shooting sleeve? And he ended up dominating us and beat us in the conference championship, and they ended up winning state that year. I don't know how much he was really considering Illinois, if I remember correctly, talking to him back in high school, but I know it was one of his considerations, and I actually went to a Stevenson game where he played at, and they were playing Zion. Admiral Schofield played at Zion, so it was a really good rivalry when I was in high school. And John Gross and Tom Izzo were both there to see Jalen. I have a picture of my buddy with Izzo, which was pretty cool. So Gross was definitely trying his best, but unfortunately, Jalen's from Philly. He wanted to go back to Philly, I think, and play for Villanova. Almost went to Temple as well. But yeah, if he was at Illinois, that'd be awesome. I think he was doable. He was like in the 30s in the top 100 rankings back then. So that would have been a nice get for sure. And he's impressed even at Villanova. I think he surprised people, and especially with the Knicks now. So that's a good one. I think the next one I'm going to do is Charlie Villanueva. I think on that one, another NBA guy. You know, who knows, of course, how these guys pan out, if they go to a different school, if they're even in the NBA, or how their NBA career goes. But, you know, I wouldn't have said this one probably like if we did this last year, but I think Charlie talked recently that he was like about to commit to Illinois. I think he said like he really liked the girls on campus, which is a funny story. So just thinking about him on those teams, because he would have played on the 2005 Natty team, right? I mean, they win the national championship if they had Charlie Villanueva, especially in that era where you play a couple years on college teams too. So it sounded like he was pretty close to committing, a guy that they could have got, and he would have made, those teams in the 2000s a lot better.
Yeah, it looks like he was a first rounder in the 2005 draft. So that team would have been insane. I know I've heard a lot of people say, like a lot of people a little bit older than me that would remember the recruiting cycle before that 2005 season that said he was going to come there and Illinois would have easily. I mean, I can't even imagine like having a guy like that on that 2005 team. Like not winning the national title would have been such an underachievement if they had him on that team, I feel like, for how talented they are. And that's a good one. That was potentially my next pick. Let's see. I'm going to stay in state, which again, back in the day, it felt like all these misses were guys in state, but just dudes that were great in college. And I think Illinois fans thought we were going to get, even if we really didn't have a chance to get, hasn't totally panned out in the pros, but was insane in college. I am going to say Jabari Parker. Went to Duke, lit it up. I don't remember if they won the Natty or not. Probably not. Duke always seems to get those guys and not win the Natty, but
no, they won with Jaleel, but not Jabari.
Jaleel Okafor, that's what it was. Chicago kid. I think was Illinois in his like his top 5 or something like that? Like, who knows?
Probably,
Then,
yeah.
but maybe just a nice thing to the hometown state. But Jabari Parker ended up, being great at Duke and being a top pick, and he could have been the IO. There's other guys that could have been the IO, but ended up being IO and worked out. So, not doing great. I don't think he's in the league right now. I think he's playing overseas somewhere, but would have been an awesome story. And I think, again, that Chicago connection just would add an insane amount of fans.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was good. He played with Jalen a little bit on Mac Irving. I know Jabari was playing for Barcelona a little bit a couple years ago. I think he's still playing out in Europe. Of course, a really good player at Simeon. I think they might have won state like 4 years in a row with Jabari, which is crazy. Right. Kendrick Nunn, another Illinois guy. That's another story we can speak on at a different time, but they were super good. They ended up beating Jalen when Jalen was a freshman in the state championship. I remember I was a freshman in high school watching that game. So that was cool. I think I'm going to stick with that type of time, or I think it was a similar time. I'll go with Cliff Alexander as my number 4. I know he didn't pan out in college or, the pros or anything, but I mean, he was a number 4th overall ranked player in the entire country, I think. I'm looking at his 247 now. That seems like it's crazy that Illinois was going to have him come to school. I forget what year, but he was considering Kansas, of course, where he went, DePaul, Illinois, and he was number 1 player in Illinois. And Illinois was really struggling, to kind of get that next big piece. And he picked up the Illinois hat, put it down, picked up the Kansas hat, and Karma's a you-know-what because he didn't pan out in college or in the pros after being a top 5 overall recruit. So, I mean, that one hurt like crazy. That was a huge miss. I know he didn't pan out, but, I mean, if he comes to Illinois, who knows? He might have been amazing. Yeah, it's terrible.
The hat grab wasn't as bad as I remember. Like, yes, he picked it up. But for some reason, when I was a kid, I felt like he put the hat on.
It almost looks like he accidentally did it. Like he wasn't he wasn't even looking at the hat. When you watch it, so I wonder if anyone's asked him if it was an honest mistake, or I doubt it is. But what's the year on that?
2013.
2013. Okay,
November of 2013.
Okay, so a little bit before Jabari, but
I will say though, I mean, the hats look quite different.
Yeah, for sure. An orange hat is different than a gray hat, for sure.
But that's a great story. Maybe just for the sake of fandom, we should just remember it as him picking up the Illinois hat on purpose and putting it down.
For sure.
That's a great pick. I mean, as far as pain wise, like we were talking about in the moment, that's got to be up there. Just could have changed things, and then just getting kicked in the face like that felt so much worse.
Especially in 2013 too, just the state of the program. I know we just made the tournament and lost to Miami, but it's we weren't what we used to be, and we really needed someone. That one hurt for sure.
Let's see. I am going to go with. Again, this list is probably making us seem a little young. At least you went with Villanueva, but I am going to go with, again, this is just my personal one, because back at this point, I was still major dialed into Illinois basketball recruiting, because that was the hope, right? You were hoping to get an IO or something, which he ended up doing, and it took way too long. Gross just couldn't get it done for the most part, and if the talent he did get, he wasn't able to make last. So I'm going to go with EJ Liddell. Being from Belleville, I was actually born in that area, so I felt like I had a personal connection to EJ Liddell and Belleville. And then I think that one was more prolonged pain, right? Because he just felt like every time you played him at Ohio State, he had a big game. And I know there was a couple games here you might have still been manager then when it was a huge like Ohio State game and he dominated and they ended up winning. I don't remember, but
Yeah, he got some a couple times. He was really good, that's for sure.
And if he was on that Io Kofi Trent 1 seed team, I don't think we're losing to Loyola, that's for sure. In the beginning of Underwood's career, it really felt like not having a 4 was just such a flaw, and he could have made such a difference. Again, being from the state, ended up dominating you while he was at Ohio State. Got hurt like right away after coming into the league, so I think he is on the Nets right now, like in the G League. But
yeah,
again, that one was painful, and I wish he would have came to Illinois. That's for sure.
Yeah, that one hurts, and it hurts even more when they go to like another Big Ten school. Like similar to like the Merez situation. It's like, all right, you go to somewhere else. Like Illinois fans probably aren't as pissed at Merez, but you go to Michigan or like Ohio State, Indiana, similar to Eric Gordon. It's like, all right, like now we have to play you. Now we're gonna boo you and everything like that. So that one hurt for sure. Similarly, I'll go kind of new school, kind of just fitting with our era of hoops. But the Drew Timme one, I'll probably go with number 5. That's one that we were, in consideration for. That we were in his final 5. I think he ended up cutting down his final 3, and Illinois wasn't on it. But you talk about like good big men. I feel like early on in Underwood's career, before we got Georgie and Kofi and all those guys, big guys were needed. I know Laurent Black was good, but he's like 6'7". He's not really a true big. I think Timme would have been outstanding. All-American player at Gonzaga, was on some of the best Gonzaga teams in the history of the school. Didn't love the mustache and the celebration towards the end of his career, but his performance spoke for itself. If you're that good, you can kind of do whatever you want. So All-American, we were in his top 5. That one hurt for sure. We weren't really back yet. I think he got to Gonzaga in like 2019. So just think about like if we had Drew Timme for those type of teams playing the 4. I don't know if he fit the style much, but that would have been awesome.
I think, and Timme was another one that was like, oh man, we're in his top choices. Like he's going to change things. And
yeah,
it wasn't him. And then I think even for like a hot second, when it was still, when grad transferring was the big deal, right? Like you graduated and you had a grad transfer year. There was like a hot second where there was rumors he was going to come to Illinois for his grad transfer year. Obviously that didn't happen. But that's a good one. I definitely have vivid memories of looking up Drew Timme, what he's doing, watching his highlights, convincing myself he was probably going to come to Illinois. So
yeah,
that leaves me with a lot of options, but I think I am going to go with now this guy. I think it makes it more painful just because of the personality and guy that he is now. And I think a lot of people like this guy. I personally like this guy a lot. I'm going to go with Robby Hummel because obviously ended up going to Purdue, being a great player. I know he got hurt late in his career and now he's doing broadcasting stuff, had a short professional career, but his dad went to Illinois, I believe, and from Indiana, not that far away. Felt like that should have been an easy get, and he obviously panned out and played well at Purdue, and that was a great team. The teams he were on were great, so less flashy. Maybe that'll score me some points with people a little bit older than me that remember recruiting and were dialed in at that time, and maybe even remember his dad. But this is quite the list, and I know we didn't make rosters, but these would be pretty good rosters, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean, your roster is going to beat mine, but with Rose and Brunson, and I guess I got a couple good NBA guys too. But there's definitely been some pain with Illinois. I was going to mention Taylor Horton Tucker too. He went to Iowa State. That was kind of when I was a manager. He wanted to come to Illinois, but Mac Irvin and and just IO and that whole situation. If you're unfamiliar, you can look into that. But he ended up going to Iowa State and has been playing in the NBA a little bit. So, with IO and THT on the team, that one was one that I was going to pick. I didn't think most people would know much about that situation, but that one hurt for sure.
Yeah, that one, I think I hate to say fair weather fan because we're like kind of nerds, but average Illinois fans probably wouldn't know that story. But I think anybody that kept up with recruiting and stuff probably heard about that. And that was unfortunate, but who knows? I mean, I think Illinois in the long run obviously got the better of the college options, considering how that panned out, but would have been nice to have both of them. Other names we didn't mention that are on our list: Jaleel Okafor, I guess you brought him up, Jordan Poole, Demetrius Jackson, Brandon Rush, Sean Livingston, Sheldon Williams, and one other random one I found on a Reddit thread was Brian Cardinal from Tolono, because he ended up being a solid. I think he won the NBA Finals with the Mavericks in 2011. But he's from Tolono.
Yeah,
Community. How do you not get a kid from Unity?
Yeah, that's crazy. We should have got him. He's a good player for sure. I mean, I'm sure the list goes on. There's a lot of in-state guys we don't get. A lot of guys we're in on, maybe not as much as other guys like Cliff or, Eric Gordon or whatever. But I'm sure there's a long list we can continue to, chat for hours about.
That makes me think, is there any other you remember from your manager time? Obviously, you don't have to give crazy details, but you're like, oh, we thought we were going to get that guy, or we were stoked about that guy, or something crazy that happened.
I guess TJ Holyfield, when he was there, I remember his visit. I mean, I remember when Shannon visited and we didn't end up getting him. That was a tough one. Of course, he came back and now he's an Illinois legend, but there's definitely a few. I mean, that's kind of like the ones that come to mind. Yeah, I remember Kofi visited and we lost FAU and he committed. That was almost a bad one. But we had a bunch of guys visit and everything, and we ended up getting, the guys we needed, thankfully. But those are ones that come to mind first.
Funny Kofi story. A few years ago, I had to get my tonsils out, which is a terrible idea if you're in your 20s. And I remember watching us lose to FAU, and I'm like, I can't feel anything. This is the worst pain in my life. And then we lose to FAU, and then Kofi commits, and I'm like thinking the drugs are hitting extra hard or something. So I'm like, why the heck would this kid commit after that loss? Which thankfully recruits, coaches and recruiting processes aren't like fans who are, all over the place with their emotions and stuff. So, I'd say you were in house for some pretty good recruiting visits and a lot of NBA talent there. Luckily the misses now, it's just like, high school recruiting obviously has become less important. And if you miss on a guy, it's like, well, let's hope that he doesn't fit in at his new team and then offer him next year. So it's just so much different. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to have such hard feelings for guys. Like you said, Merez, a little bit different. But if a guy transfers, that's just, the name of the game nowadays. So,
yeah, no, the transfer portal makes a little bit more, more mainstream, and you can reload a little bit easier. High school recruiting was tough. It's like, wow, we just missed out on this guy. We spent millions of hours at their high school, grassroots games, their high school games, on the UIBL circuit, et cetera. So those would hurt a little bit more. But nowadays you can kind of just get someone with a little film and a Zoom call.
All right. Well, thanks again, Robby, for doing that. And you're going to have a couple weeks off. So what do you got coming up? Are you working on anything before you leave, or are you kind of just getting ready to take off for your trip?
Yeah, I'm going to do another piece of the Champagne Room just about the matchups for the Big Ten that came out. As I mentioned, I'm a nerd with the schedules, always on top of the schedule releases. So hopefully we'll get some more non-conference games scheduled here, hoping for a big Thanksgiving game announced soon, hopefully. And yeah, I'll do that this week. I'll keep the newsletter going for Armchair Illini, but you probably won't see me much on these podcasts for the next couple of weeks. I am getting married in Italy, and I'll be unplugged a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say if there's ever a time in your life to put your phone away or just forget about Illinois basketball, that'd be a good time to do it. So
yeah, won't do that. Don't worry, but I won't be on the podcast.
There you go. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks again for doing this. We'll look forward to having you on in a few weeks. Hopefully, Andre said he's coming back at that point, and geez, I don't know, maybe some Illinois football news. Like you mentioned, I think before off air, it's going to be, in a few weeks, they're going to have summer workouts. So might have a lot to talk about when you get back.
Yeah, we got a couple Friday night games I saw for Illinois football, so I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll probably get the times of the first 3 weeks, I think, at the end of May. So we'll see what time Illinois plays at home the first 3 games, and I know we got football right around the corner.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robby, and have a great trip. Congrats. And I'm Alana Isaac. That's Robby Nardini. We'll be back on here soon. Thanks again for listening to us commemorate some of the most painful Illinois recruiting misses of all time. So peace out. This is the Champagne Room Live and ILL.